Around the NFL, presented by Taco Time NW and their continuing pursuit of solid new employees across the region, tacotimenw.com/careers, one of my favorite times of the week. And you know why I say that? Because I happen to be with them right now. If I was with somebody else, I'd say it. My man Mules, the former NFL GM a few times over, Randy Mueller, joining us on Mitch Unfiltered. And as we began here, before we started the show, I was getting a lesson in elk season, hunting elk. And I never realized, Randy, that you guys only get 2 weeks to hunt elk. Explain the reasons why.
Well, it's got to be fair, right? The season has to be before the snow falls. And in northern Idaho, the snow is fixing to fall. So it's just the opposite, I think, in the state of Washington, where the deer season comes before the elk season. So it's state by state. Every state's a little different.
A non-hunting guy like me giggles at what you just said, which is it's got to be fair. Now, what they are.
Wait a second. We're going to offend a lot of people, Mitch. I don't know about this. I'm serious. I got a lot of people I really enjoy. I love Seattle. I don't want to get run out of town because I'm a,
But you said you got to keep it to 2 weeks because that's when it's fair. Do we give the elk something to shoot back at you guys?
Yeah, I knew that was coming. Yeah. I told you, I'm just wired a little different, right? I grew up having a trap line every morning before school. So that's what I did. And so I enjoy it. That's all. I'm an outdoorsman.
Now, if Randy Mueller, the former GM, invited Mitch Levy over to his humble abode in Idaho, which I go to the mailbox every single day. I don't believe it. If I went over there and I found an invitation and I came to visit you, would I see all kinds of scary creatures up on your wall? Would I see things? Would I see things, like captures? Would I see successes? No, I wouldn't see.
I'm not like that. You wouldn't see. How about this? You'd see very little of that. You'd see very little football things. It would be a normal neighborhood joint that you walked into and maybe watched the ball game and had a beer. That's about it. You wouldn't know anything else from it.
Well, I think the big story of that group in terms of long-term intrigue would have to be the New Orleans situation, because you're talking about a good team who's not getting Jameis Winston back now.
Right.
And Sean Payton, who's always been considered an offensive whiz, is going to have to weave something together with those two guys now, and Simeon, and I'm assuming Hill's going to come back, whether it's this week or next week. What do you think? I mean, the Saints are not going to beat the Buccaneers in that division, but certainly they're in line for a wild card. Is this the end of the year as we know it for the Saints, or can he get it done with two other guys?
I think he is in Sean Payton has shown he can get it done. They play really good defense, as Seattle saw last week. They can run the ball. They got Mark Ingram now. It's going to help them between the tackles be a little more efficient. I just think they are not going to go away. And by the way, they beat the Bucs 3 times the last 2 years. So they lost to them in the playoffs, but they have found a way to get the number of Tampa Bay. And it's just about matchups, right? I watched the tape. They dominated the Buccaneers on both sides of the ball up front. Saints offensive line was outstanding. And I think into getting Taysom Hill back, that's kind of Sean Payton's boy, right? It's his stepchild. He wants him back. He wants him in the fold. So they're going to use him. But, I think it'll be fun to watch. I think they're going to, again, like you said, fight for a playoff spot, but I'm not counting them out in any way of making the playoffs. That's for obviously the other side of the Dallas game. And I love Mike Zimmer. I love what he stands for. He's blue collar. He's simple to sometimes a fault. But the game plan that they rolled out against Dallas to let Cooper Rush feel so comfortable, didn't really come after him, didn't pressure him, didn't stop Dallas, didn't tackle well. They throw a little the ball to Elliott at the end of the game, and all you got to do is tackle him, right? He runs it in and wins the game.
Aaron Rodgers, story of the week, story of the month, perhaps story of the year, tests positive for COVID. There's obviously the video that's making the rounds of him earlier in the year or before the year started saying that he was immunized when he was asked if he was vaccinated. The NFL has declared him a non-vaccinated player, which really brings a tough set of rules for him now that he's tested positive, including not playing this week against the Chiefs. He's iffy now against the Seahawks. I guess the 10 days bring him back if he tests okay and he
Yep.
has no symptoms, potentially he could play in the game at the last minute against the Seahawks. How do you feel if you're the Packers? How do you feel if you're the rest of the NFL? Should they be fining him because his conduct without masks? Now you can go back over the last 3 or 4 weeks and say, or 8 weeks and say, wait a second now. If he's a non-vaccinated player, is he following the rules, Randy?
Yeah, I think that's the key right now is what has he done? The one thing about it is the NFL has posted video cameras in everybody's facility. They can trace and find everywhere he's been, everything he's done, all the actions. If he has not followed the protocol and the guidelines, he's going to get suspended. There's no doubt in my mind. So I don't know that Seahawk fans have to worry, to be honest with you. I just don't see how he comes out of this thing clean. I think there was he's been so cute and so, he's smarter than everybody. He's smarter than all of us, right? I mean, let's just face it. When we hear him talk, we know he's the smartest guy in the room. But there's some deception here that I would struggle with as a teammate. If this is what you've done, I struggle with all these quarterbacks that haven't been vaccinated, by the way. Just doesn't make sense to me that you can be in a leadership position like that and know that you're going to put your team behind the 8 ball if you do come up positive, just like this. If he was vaccinated, just for those that don't know, he'd have to test negative twice within 24 hours of each other, and then he could come back. Obviously, that's not the case with him. He put in for the Nick Rolovich exemption when the season started. Obviously, that got turned down as well. He thought there was some special immune system. Again, these guys they sometimes think they're above the rules. And if he carried on in the fashion of not following protocol, the league is going to come down hard on him. They don't care if it's Aaron Rodgers or Roger Aaron. It really doesn't matter. So it'll be interesting to see.
When we talk about the NFC, and the Packers have been one of the better teams, they beat the Cardinals. You just talked about it, and one of the good things, now they'll be without Aaron Rodgers, at least for a week. The Rams are really good. I don't care whether they're leading the West or not. The Rams are really good. They go out and get Von Miller to add to an already strong pass rushing group. The Dallas Cowboys, for the last 4 or 5 years, I think most of us around the NFL have kind of discounted the best team in the NFC East.
Me too. Yeah. I'm with you.
We've all felt like, oh my God, that's like a college conference. It's boys amongst men. So whoever's the survivor there is not very good. Right. Well, it's still not a very good division, but this Cowboys team has added a couple of nice pieces on defense. They're winning football games with Dak, without Dak. You got to take them seriously, don't you? I know on MuellerFootball.com, there was a certain author yelling, they're for real. The Cowboys are for real, and here's the reasons why, right?
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. I've been one that always kind of doubted. For one thing, I don't think any of us really want to trust Jerry and what he says. So everybody automatically wants to not give him credit, and I understand that. But I think what they've done now, and they're healthy enough that we have a long ways to go in this season, Mitch. As you know, there's a ton of football left. Teams that are thin are going to get tested. I think the Rams are thin. I think the Saints are thin. I think some of these teams just roster-wise are thin. I don't think Dallas is thin, and that was my point. I think they are built for the long haul. They have a large margin of error because they have 8 offensive linemen that are all pretty good. They have 4 receivers that I would take any of them. They've got 2 running backs, so they've built in a margin for error. Now we find out that they have 2 quarterbacks too. So you mentioned the defense. They're moving parts around. Yeah, it's not the most complex situation, but we know we've seen Dan Quinn work. He's good at what he does. Yeah. He'll get them playing in a certain way, and they're not going to outthink the other team, but they don't have to. So no, I think Dallas is in the driver's seat for the long haul. Now, that's not to be measured this week or next week, but let's get back to me around Thanksgiving or later and just see how the injuries have panned out for some of these other teams. Maybe they all have rolled a lucky die this year and won't get hurt, but that doesn't happen very often.